Hi, welcome back everybody to Uncommon Sense. I'm Terri.
Hi, I'm Shannon.
We realized when we wanted to revamp the podcast that we never actually did introductions to ourselves. So that's what today is about. We are going to introduce ourselves, tell a little bit about our story, interview one another. Maybe you get to laugh a little. Maybe you cry a little. Maybe we cry a little. Who knows? But it should be a lot of fun. So let's dive right into that.
Okay. Well, I want to start off by saying, just so everyone kind of has an idea of where we originated, as far as the story of us, Terri and I. We met at 19, and we were both long time ago, many years ago now. See, that would be 21 years ago.
Don't age us on screen.
I'm just saying. That's how long I've known her.
That was 5 years ago. I can't.
No. But we were both working at the same place, and
wait, stop. Let me stop you. Let's tell them what the same place was, Shannon, Miss Oil Heiress. Okay, tell them what the same place.
Okay,
we were working at Cohutta Lodge that Shannon's family purchased and then dumped a couple $1 million into remodeling. This is just to show the dichotomy. This is just to set a little bit of context to the dichotomy and the difference in the way that you and I were brought up. So Shannon's family owned the Cohutta Lodge, okay, where I worked as a little front desk clerk to start with, okay. I also think I did I cleaned the rooms there, did the housekeeping there.
You did.
Shannon was the heiress and I was the laundress. But keep going.
Well, so yeah, that was my father's side of the family. I didn't really get to know until 19. Most of my life I lived in poverty. Haynes Road area, St. Pete, anybody that knows that area, it's super gangster, not a good area. And, I would see them on the holidays growing up, and it was strange. My father would pick us up, like, your clothes aren't good enough. I have to buy you new clothes, new jammies, so just so you can be presentable to the family. And so they were all great people, though. Don't get me wrong. But it was just, that's the way I grew up. But we would go see them on the holidays at the family ranch. And,
where was the family ranch, by the way?
It was in Dade City, Florida, was where it was. And or technically Webster, Florida, I guess, if we're getting really technical, like Webster, Brooksville, Dade City area right in there. And it was beautiful. They had, prized horses, had a few cows, but it was all like Spanish style, like the red tile roofing, the stucco, like immaculate. It was beautiful.
I want to talk about the Bowmans for a minute because that is your people, right? This is your Shannon Bowman when I met you.
Mm-hmm.
The Bowmans, for those that don't know, your grandfather was basically, if I'm remembering this incorrectly, please interrupt me, was an oil tycoon back in the day.
No.
He was. Okay. Your uncle lied then. Uncle Bill.
My Uncle Bill lied about a lot. I'm just kidding.
But you were in the hotel industry. Yes.
It was the hotel industry, yeah. So so he had like a Hilton on St. Pete Beach, and it had like a rotating top, and he did the Don Cesar. So anybody from the St. Pete area, it's the Pink Castle. Yeah. And he refurbished it. It used to be a VA hospital, and then refurbished it and made it into this Don Cesar, a very luxurious hotel with a ballroom and the whole thing. So, but that was my dad's side of the family that I didn't have a lot of interaction with, and I wasn't really regarded as much because I was female. I feel like my sister and I were kind of like, oh, that's nice. You're doing well in school. Oh, that's nice. And you know what I mean? It just, not that they didn't love us or anything, but, I think my sister and I both throughout our lives had to feel like we had so much to prove. Like, we can do this. We can do anything that you can do, you know.
Anything you can do, I can do. But I didn't know that they did not regard girls like in the family.
Yeah, you know, it was said that when I was born, everyone was excited because I was the first girl in like 200 years, and I got a pony as an infant, apparently.
Sorry. Just a standard childhood. I got a pony for being
Well,
a girl.
his name was Rex. He got struck by lightning when I was a teenager. That didn't go well, but no, you know, I was a big deal for a short amount of time, you know, and you know, my parents, they got divorced when I was 5, so up until that point, like, you know, we got nice stuff, we had nice clothes, you know, it was a great little life. You know, my grandfather had a house with like a few jacuzzis, I think more than one pool, if I remember correctly. And one of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think, bought it like years ago. I don't know if they still live there or not, but yeah, I mean,
so you were St. Pete royalty, I guess, in
a way. Yes, I think that's a good way to say that. Yes, but he was in the hotel industry, and he had restaurants. There was a restaurant called the Lucky Fisherman, and then he helped my dad and uncle like buy a donut shop when I was a teenager, which was super weird time in my life. So, but yeah, it was about acquiring these businesses, and my uncle and my dad would work for my grandfather, and then when my grandfather died in 2008, it's kind of like, well, what do we do now, you know?
I do remember that about your dad and your uncle. Like, it's very, I think it's common among family businesses or families that work together in the family business. Like, I know they always say that it takes, I don't know what, a generation to build it, and like by the third generation, it's destroyed because when you live or you're handed all of the privilege, you don't understand the value of building it for yourself and working, and so it just gets kind of pissed away, for lack of a better term. And I think that was definitely true for your uncle, at least from what I remember from him. And I think largely probably the reason that the Cohutta Lodge did not succeed as a private resort. Is that right? Am I understanding that correct?
Yeah, I mean, when my grandfather died, I mean, if I remember correctly, I think the bank kind of took it over, and there was something weird going on with Gilmer County Bank in Ellijay during that time. So I don't really know the full story, but I mean, what was sad was when my grandfather passed, he didn't have a penny to his name.
Why, though?
I don't know if it's, you know, if I had to, again, I have my
okay,
thoughts on it.
Let me get some context here. Shannon is the nicest person in the world, and she cannot bring herself to spit out anything negative about somebody. So she's going to tiptoe around this.
I can if you push it. Listen, don't put baby in a corner. You know.
There were just people involved in the business that were not necessarily the most forthcoming or honest about the finances and the business practices and ethics.
Yes? That would be an accurate statement.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. So when your parents split up, then you kind of lived like the rest of us?
Yeah.
You kind of got knocked down a peg or two, is that?
Oh, well, my mom, you know, she was a single mom for a few years. Her parents, my maternal grandparents, had a print shop in St. Pete for years and years, Sterling Printing, or it used to be called Quick Copy, and then it was Sterling Printing. And that was before you had like the Kinko's and all of that pop up. So they did decent, you know, for themselves. It wasn't a lavish lifestyle like my father and that side of the family, but it, you know, everyone was like, okay, you know, normal. And then she got remarried when I was, I think, 8 years old, and that was a poop show if I've ever seen it. So that's when I found out there were really bad people that existed in the world. So.
Yeah, and I think my story with poverty started much sooner than yours did. And honestly, I don't begrudge anybody for growing up with a better lifestyle. I think it's great. Although I do think struggle builds character. And like I always say, if struggle builds character, then I have the most character of anyone in the world ever. So
you've got great character now.
I do. I have a great personality.
You must have really struggled.
I know. I really did. My dad could have been, and at one point was pretty much offered to be like a country music superstar in the 80s, right? And he turned it down.
You never told me that. I've known.
Oh, yeah. So he was going through these, like, I guess, I don't know what it was at the time, but it was sort of like these auditions. I guess if I could relate it to anything that you would know recent day, it would be something like The Voice or something like that. But it was just in the 80s. And basically like these talent searches. And so he went through and they were basically like willing to sign him. I could have been country music legacy star, right? Like that could have been my world. But he said that he went to this meeting up there and they were doing these talent searches and they'd already been like talking with him about signing and all of that. And then there was this Black woman there and she got up on stage and she sang How Great Thou Art a cappella, and there were tears in her eyes the whole time. And he said, I knew that I had to say no. And he said no. And he went and became a minister instead,
wow.
Which is great. I mean, again, I think it really, in my earlier years, sort of set the tone for ministry for me. So I do appreciate that. But my parents split up when I was 7. We were poor before then, but my parents split up when I was 7, and it kind of started me down a colorful childhood.
Like super poor.
Yeah, we were super poor. My mother worked very, very hard. She was single mom with 4 kids. She worked in a factory. She worked for textiles for Aladdin Mills at the time, which has now been bought out by Mohawk, which if you're from Dalton or anywhere in Georgia, everybody knows what Mohawk is. Most of us have worked there at some point or another. It's one of the largest flooring manufacturers aside from Shaw probably in the world. And so I remember she would bind and serge the bathroom rugs. And so she would be covered in lint every day. You could smell her, like the lint and the chemicals from the pre-dyed solutions before she even opened the door when she came home. But yeah, to say that we were poor is probably to glorify the situation a little bit. We were poor, like moments where we would go without power, without water, sometimes for weeks at a time, just because we didn't have money. So it was like feed the children or pay the power bill. And so those were really like actual decisions she had to make. And so I was actually talking to my brother about this. We were talking and sort of like some people get things handed to them, and like some people have these legacies of these businesses or these IULs that are handed to them with cash value and all these things that they can get their life started with. Right. And like our legacy is we could probably survive the apocalypse. So like, we have a lot of really good survival skills. Like I could probably show you how to change or repair a heating element in your dryer with a wire coat hanger and some tinfoil, but like I didn't get a cash value surrender IUL handed to me so I could retire early. It's like we were making jokes about just kind of the way we grew up. And I think for a long time, I think I probably felt some type of way about it, but really, if it taught me nothing, it definitely taught me the value of not quitting and perseverance in the face of just incredible odds. Like there will be a day on the other side of it that's not as dark. So I'm grateful because there's definitely been some dark times that I've walked through since then. But I remember when I first met you, I don't think I did not know the side of like the mom's side of your family. And like I associated you with the Bowmans and the Bowmans.
Oh yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and so like I thought you were like the coolest person ever when I met you. I did. I was like, here's this girl.
I'm pretty cool now, but back then, questionable. Your taste.
No, I was like,
definitely
here's this Florida girl who is tan and like skinny and like her family's got money and like she goes back to Florida every weekend on her little Pontiac Sunfire and like with her sunroof down and like her little cornrows or whatever it was you had in your hair. Like I thought you were so cool and I thought that we were just leagues apart. So to think that we ever would have been as close of friends as we are today, I don't think I ever would have. If you'd asked me then, there's no way I would have said
but
yes.
See, how long did it take you to figure out, like, she is a huge geek? Like, what is...
Probably, like, recently.
No.
Probably, yeah.
There's
probably.
No way. You've known me for way too long.
Well, okay.
Way too long. When you say recent, how recent are we talking here?
In the last couple of years.
I don't know how to feel about that, Terry.
But you, when I first met you, got married pretty quickly.
Oh, dumb. So dumb. Don't do it.
Shannon got married at what, 20?
I was 20 years old.
20 years old.
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Oh, man. So, I'm going to start off, obviously. I have the most amazing kids ever.
You do have good kids.
Ever in the history. They're beautiful. My son has a jawline that could cut glass. He's brilliant. My daughter she is just this ball of light. Like, they're both just incredible people. They have these wonderful personalities. My son will be 20 in January.
Could you imagine him getting married now? And
I don't want No, I don't want to talk about it. No. And then Jude, she just turned 14, and I took her driving today, just so she can kind of get used to the new car. But I wouldn't trade that for anything, getting married young, because a month after I got married, that's when I found out I was pregnant.
Okay.
With my son. So I wouldn't trade that part of it, but I tell my children now, for the love of God, whatever you do, please live a little, go to college, travel, live life a little bit. Don't get married so young, because there's still so much growing. Like, your brain literally has not formed properly yet, and there's so much life to live and so many mistakes to make and so many things to do and to,
You feel getting married young is limiting?
Oh, extremely. Extremely.
Now, okay, but do you think that you're drawing from your own experience of your early marriage? Because I see the argument for both sides, right? I see growing together, growing. And look at your face. Whoa, hold on. Back your face up a little bit.
Hold on. That means you have to have two people that are willing to grow. Now, on the off chance.
Yes. That is what I'm saying. Do you feel like your experience is coloring your perspective of what early marriage is like? Because your experience
that's the only experience I have to
go
off of, right? But I was dumb. All I saw was, he's 6'3", 4, and he's good looking. Now, no, time has not been kind to him at all. So, but back then, he was tall and handsome. He was going into the military, and that's what I thought love was. But looking back,
you thought love was tall. I probably still think.
Well, I was 20 years old, and let's be real, love. It was lust, but I took it for love, and then, as I became a mother, as time progressed, and I started making my moves as far as, going back to school, getting my degree, changing careers, as you grow and you see that person is like not even growing, like it is on a downward trajectory, it's it's rough, but, that's why I tell my kids, live your life, like go to school, do your thing, wait to get married. Just don't do it so young, because the person I was 20 years ago versus who I am now at the ripe old age of 40, two totally different people.
You just aged us again. You just aged us again.
We got to be honest with these people, okay? But, I'm proud. I'm proud to be 40. I'm proud to, have had the experiences I've had. But that is one thing. Like, please grow up a little bit. Have some life experience. Do your thing before you get married so young. Because you still don't know who you are. You don't really know who that other person is. And I definitely didn't know. I got married after a few months of knowing them. Again, not a good idea. Don't do it.
And let's back this up too. If I can say this, Shannon married the dishwasher at the Cohutta Lodge.
Yeah.
Which caused some not amazing comments and feelings from your hotel heiress family.
Yeah, I was not allowed to date the help. That's how he was referred to. So I had to sneak around and see him. It was very Romeo and Juliet, if you will, which added to the thrill. But, you got promoted to like wedding coordinator. Like you were.
Well, I basically just hounded Bill until he gave me that job, because it was what I wanted to do. Yeah, it was what I wanted to do, and so I was like, I really want to be a wedding coordinator. I love to this day, I love weddings.
I know we're talking about our wedding venue someday.
I know. Yes, we are going to start a wedding venue. Yes. At some point when we get there, we'll get there. But so I remember I'd already left the lodge at that point, and I knew that they had the weddings there, and I knew that David left, because remember David was doing it back then.
David Vaughn, I remember.
I don't know his last name. I just remember the crazy mustache that he had all the time.
Vaughn was his last name.
And he drove that Mitsubishi Alero.
He did.
I remember that. But so I was like, you know what? You have a spot, and it's what I want to do. And so he was like, well, come talk to me. And I was driving back from Athens, because I'd gone to Athens for the weekend to see some friends, and like went to a game. And then I was like, okay. So I got in. I remember I got off the interstate, because that was before GPS, and I did not know at that time that 515 turned into 575, and I could have gone that way. So I went all the way around the interstate to Dalton. And then drove back to Ellijay. I got off the interstate at like 6 o'clock, drove up to the lodge and met with Bill. And he did let me have that job. It was short-lived, like everything else at that stage of my life. But I met some really good. I actually met some. I still have friends whose wedding like I helped coordinate while I was there. So I really enjoyed a lot of that.
You were good at it. I remember. That's when I was stuck in the office.
You did payroll back then. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to like pinch in here for a second. Like, I hope you realize back in the day, I thought you had always, and you still are to me, but you were just one of the most like beautiful human beings I had ever seen.
No, did you?
Serious. I just thought you
were back
gorgeous. Then. No, because you've always had this like beautiful thick blonde hair. You were so pretty. You were so kind. You were so cool.
Oh,
you were.
Thank you. I never would have guessed that. I was always trying to be you. Like it just. You know what?
No one knows.
The cover girl shimmering sands eyeshadow. I still buy that to this day.
Are you serious?
Because you told me that was what you were wearing that one time.
That was the bomb.com back then.
I know.
That was good. Look, I just aged myself again by saying bomb.com. Good Lord, help me.
We've already told everybody how old we are. So
I know. It's done. It's done. We're 40. Yeah. It's done. It's fine.
Yeah, I was highly insecure. That's
Oh, I think we all were at that age.
yeah, and I struggled with my weight a lot, right? I struggled through up and down,
Mm-hmm.
and I struggled with an eating disorder for a little while, that
Mm-hmm.
not a lot of people know about. Fortunately, did not get to the point of being critical, because I was actually in a, well, I'll just name it, I guess. I was, this was after you and I lost touch for several years, but so
Yeah, we did.
in that space in between, I started struggling with bulimia, and so um, it's this horrible cycle. Like I would binge
Mm-hmm.
because I had food insecurities from growing up a lot of times without food in the house, and so I
I
would
see
binge
that.
if there was food. I would binge it, and then I would go throw up because I'm like, I knew I was. You maybe you don't remember that I was chunky. I was definitely chunky. And I remember there was a one point when I realized kind of how big I'd even gotten, because this was before I started throwing up. But like I would still just eat a lot and eat a lot, anything in the house. And so like I saw a picture of my little brother sitting on my dad's couch. I was in my early 20s, I guess, at this point. My little brother sitting on my dad's couch, and there was a woman beside him on the couch. And I was like, who is that big girl sitting beside Nathaniel? And it
Oh,
was me.
yeah.
It was me, and I was like, when I realized that it was me, I was like, I did not realize I looked like that. I didn't
Mm.
see that, and so throughout the years, I started to throw up, and it started slow, and then I was sitting in a church service, and the Lord kind of spoke to me and said, "You need to tell on yourself, basically," and I was like, "Nope, that that's not you, God, that's just my head thinking crazy things." And so I kept hearing, you need to tell them, you
Mm-hmm.
need to tell them. And I fought it and fought it and fought it. And finally I kind of got this image, like this, the way God speaks to me is sort of like in images.
Mm-hmm.
He'll give an illustration, but I'll see it also in an image. And so like I sort of saw a battlefield, and I saw my enemy's position, and they were hiding behind an obstruction, but I could see, like I caught a glimpse of them around the corner. And the way the Lord spoke to me, he said, once, basically, you need to tell them what is happening, because once you expose the enemy's position on the battlefield, he has no more power over you. And so I did, and we kind of prayed through that, and I worked through that. And I still, like, there are still days sometimes that I, think I shouldn't have eaten that. I should just, purge or whatever. So it's definitely something that, once you've dealt with, you kind of always, it will always sort of occur to you at times. Although I'm very healthy now,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, so I did go through the whole eating disorder thing, but I was just highly insecure for a lot of reasons, and it was not until my, I want to say, late 20s that I actually got really healthy and started to
Mm-hmm.
sort of get in probably the best shape. So I would say like 28 to about 35 was probably my most healthy stage of life. I would say
Mm-hmm.
even more so than now, because it's just
I would
hard in this
say,
field.
I would say mine, honestly, after I turned 40, like I just,
Yours is now. You're in
well,
your peak now.
yeah, I feel the best I've ever felt. I did really start doing a lot after, well, the separation slash divorce. Like I'm the kind of person, if I get upset or anxious, I can't eat at all.
Yeah.
Um, I don't eat my feelings. I'm not one of those. So I
Yeah.
had dropped down to a critically, extremely unhealthy weight. But then once I put some weight back on, I, did jujitsu for a while and felt pretty good. And but now I honestly, weightlifting, it's one of the best things I've ever done for myself. I make sure that my protein intake is on spot. I drink a lot of liquids, water, etc. But, you know, and I'm making my, you know, morning shakes and drinking my mushroom coffee and taking my supplements. But I've never felt better about myself, my mental clarity, where I'm at in my life in totality until now, you know, at the age of 40.
Well, I would say there's something to coming out of the darkness you lived in for the past almost 2 decades. Your marriage was, and I want to be very sensitive and kind, and I have children that may listen to this one day. Your marriage was a source of, it just kind of sucked all the light out of you, right?
Oh, for sure.
It's very difficult to be your best anything, your best self, the best mom, the best employee, whatever.
Right.
It's very difficult to bring that forward when you're constantly being drained of all of the light and all of the life.
Oh, for sure.
Because you are having to deal with a person who fights as many demons as your ex does to this day.
You know, it's when I look back now, and, you know, even since the last podcast where we kind of, you know, discussed it, this was like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago now, there's been so much change and growth that I've experienced on so many levels. But I will say, you know, the one thing that I really, really struggle with, and I don't know how people will take it. I am not one to, you're not going to see me cry in front of you. Like, that's something I'm going to do on my own. I'm not one to just say what I think automatically. Like, I give it thought, I process it, I chew on it, and then I make sure that when I need to have a tough conversation, that I'm handling myself with grace and dignity. Now, you have said all through these years that you're too nice, like you
way too nice,
but you're really not, because I can call you and be like, look at this, I sent this.
I was so mean. I told them what for, and it's like, excuse me, but I would like to have a conversation about the way that you made me feel. This was very impolite, and like, I feel like you're a kindergarten teacher talking to your class, and like, you're like, I was mean. Like,
you're like,
maybe you should have let me write it if you wanted to be mean.
See, but on the flip side of that, right, there are times that you were like, tell me what to say, because I'm going to say the most awful things.
Yeah, I have a really, really bad habit of eviscerating people with my words when I am hurt to a point of being very angry.
Yeah.
People think...
So we're definitely opposite on that. Like,
yeah, you're so reserved and well put together. And like, you're quiet and like
my evil twin.
I'm loud and mad and mean. No, I get a bad rap in my family, and they do it jokingly most of the time, but like, I am the mean one, right? So it's like, don't ever ask me for an honest opinion.
No,
unless you really want it. But also, like, if I'm hurt by you, deeply wounded by you, and it turns to rage, I have a very bad habit of letting my tongue loose, and it's destructive. It is. And I know this about myself. I'm not proud of it, but like, I could cut you down with a sentence, and you'll never feel worse about yourself. It's terrible. It's terrible. But I do it.
Sometimes there are times I wish I could have you in my brain, because there are times
I always feel like if you could mix us together, we'd be the perfect person. Like, we could just have, yeah.
We would, you know?
Yeah, you kind of, my ability to be passionate about a thing tempered with like your reserved, thoughtful nature, I feel like would be like a perfect human being. But
yeah, but
instead you get what you get.
We're too separate.
Yeah, you get what you get. Yeah, you really have kind of come into your own though. I think it's a season. because I feel the same way. I feel like there was something magical about 40.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, I think you definitely have to understand when there is something supernatural taking place in your favor. I think that's happened for both of us in the past, I would say year, more so than because 2 years ago, like, I was a miserable mess. Like you were too in a lot of ways. And so there's something to be said for seasons and understanding that there are supernatural forces that are acting upon us at all times. Mm-hmm. And trying and always making yourself ready and available to step into that season, because you can miss a season,
Oh, for sure.
But you definitely have, it's 40. I don't know. Like, I feel like this next decade is going to be a ride.
I get to a point, like, for me, I stopped. I don't care as much about what other people think. Haircut example. I don't care if you think I look like a lesbian. I don't care. I'm the most amazing looking lesbian out there, if that's the case. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't care. Now,
and the nose ring, right? Like the nose ring. Yeah.
Listen, and I have a tattoo, and it's, some people are like, oh, you were a Sunday school teacher, and you were, I was, and that was a part of my life, but I really wish I could get over the hurdle of, like, learning how to, like, be able to express my emotions in the moment and not have to mull over it so much. But that's so much, like, and what people don't understand, that's so much conditioning, right? Like, I saw, family members of mine, like, way overreact to things when I was younger. I knew I never wanted to be like that. And then the man that I was married to for most of my young adult life, like when I was still
of your young
forming, when I was still figuring out who I was, like, I had to learn to shut it down, stuff it down, do not show emotion, because it would just make him angry. And I didn't want that. So I just learned to be quiet. I learned
You made yourself small.
Oh yeah. I had to. And luckily I did. Because now we're seeing, I'm trying to be sensitive about this.
You're seeing that his rage really has no limits.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
in his relationships that he has cultivated since your split, he really has no limits to how far he will go and how destructive he can be.
Right. That's a good way to put it. We'll leave it at that. But when you're in that for so long, that is a lot of rewiring, and I'm still trying to rewire my brain, and I'm still, trying to really learn to trust, I think to a certain degree. And it's kind of a weird dichotomy, because like, I genuinely try to see the good in people. I've always been that way. Like, I like to focus on the positives, and sometimes that's really bitten me, in the tush. But, at the same time, like, I'll know within a few minutes of meeting somebody if I can genuinely be around that person. And I think that's another blessing of getting older. Like, you kind of learn what vibe.
Well, I think you don't have the bandwidth. Like, you're busy. I'm busy, right? We have kids, we have careers, we have this, we have all the things. You have a new relationship. Well, not new now, but you're in another relationship. Like, who has time to accommodate things that don't make sense?
Right.
And I listened to that podcast. It's also about women going through menopause and, like, why divorce is so much more common initiated by women who are going through menopause. It's because nothing else it makes sense. And we realize we don't, at this stage of our life, we really don't have time to accommodate things that no longer benefit or make sense, or even are a negative and subtract from, our
I
life.
think a lot of things, and I hate it. I hate to say it this way because I am not a man hating like crazy person. I'm just gonna put that out there. But I think so many women, as we age, like we don't have time to deal with a man child. We just don't.
True.
And I think that's the biggest thing, like man child in someone, a man who's not willing to like actually be a parent, like be the, you know what I mean? And actually help and, be a partner. That's what you want. Like I feel like the person that I'm seeing, he is someone that is a partner, and I feel like I'm a partner.
You're not really tied to a boat anchor.
Yeah. And I mean, when I look back, there's a lot of man children out there, and it's kind of, ooh, it's rough. It's
hard, yeah. If I was thinking, like, if I had to start over at this phase of my life, I think I would just not. I think I would just focus on the things that I've got going and leave the rest of it. I mean, Silas is still pretty small. Like, that takes up a lot of my energy. We've got a lot of things, going that we're trying to work for, and goals that we're trying to hit. Like, if I had to start completely over at my age, I really don't think that I would even give it an ounce of my energy.
Unfortunately for me, I've had to kind of start over a lot in my life, and that was kind of a long running theme, because when the divorce happened, that wasn't the first and final split, the final split, but not the first. There were several times where I would take the kids and leave and then start over. And then everything seems okay, and then a few years later, I got to leave and start over again, so but I will say, especially the past few years for me, I've been the most, just at peace, and, I'm comfortable in my own skin, and, my kids are really happy, and I'm really happy, and I've done great things with my career. And you, speaking of careers, like, you've been in some movies, you've been singing some songs.
You've been writing some songs.
I know. I mean, I thought I was proud of myself. That took me.
It's a great song. Like, it will be a great song when we get it. So for those of you that don't know, Shannon writes poetry, and she wrote a poem and was like, listen to this poem. And I was like, this is a song.
Yeah.
This is a song. And so she finished it as a song. And so we're going to try to get some music to that and get it recorded. So you really are. I was very impressed by it. I will say that. But yeah, I've been in some things also. My first film. My first film was in 2007. It will remain nameless.
Is this the one where you were an assassin or something? Right? Am I right?
Yes.
I remember.
It was terrible. It was terrible.
I still haven't seen it, and I've known her all this time, so I haven't seen it.
Listen, if I took much comfort in the fact that you couldn't find it anywhere online for many, many, many years. It was not until after Country Rain premiered, and I don't know if there's a correlation here, until I was in this other film, like with Dean Cain. They have now put the first movie back on YouTube. I will not tell you the name. You can
find it. I am going to find it. I am going to watch it.
Promise me that you and I can watch it together so I can explain some things, okay?
Let me watch it. I'll make notes. I'll laugh a little.
No.
And then that way, when we do it together, I'm not laughing at all. I'm very serious.
You can laugh because it's not going to hurt my feelings.
I would never want to hurt your feelings.
It would not hurt my feelings.
Grab it first. Like,
it would not. It would hurt my feelings. Yeah, so my first film was in 2007, and it was it was an independent film project that was shot locally in Chattanooga, Tennessee. It was so much fun on the set.
It was not, however, a wonderful finished product. And so I didn't do anything in the film space for many, many years after that. I did some things singing, as I have done my entire life. So, you know, all that to say, I was still on a stage, just a different kind of stage. And so when I moved to Atlanta in 2017, I started back with an agency and started doing some things for Tyler Perry Studios, started getting a little bit of momentum there, and got engaged, was planning a wedding. Silas came along, and I didn't do anything. Part of that is because I struggled very severely with postpartum. I never wanted to hurt myself. I never wanted to hurt Silas, but I was just miserable. You can just ask Andrew Bonds how miserable I was, because he says I made him miserable too. I'm sure it was a very dark time for me, but
that couldn't have been easy for you for anybody, you know.
Yeah, we went through a lot when Silas was born for a couple of years, and we'll just leave it there. But I was 39 and a half, and I was staring down the barrel of November 8th, which was my 40th birthday, staring me right in the face. And I have a great job. I'm very grateful for my job. But I was sitting in this office, and I was like, you know what, God, this can't be it. This cannot be it. Thank you for this job. It provides. It's great. Yes. I'm comfortable. It's, you know, there was a time, quite literally, I prayed for the specific job I have and even the exact salary that they offered me when I first came on, right? So it was a prayer answered, and it sustained me, but I was miserable. And so I was like, you know what? I don't believe in New Year's resolutions. I believe in lifestyle changes. So I made a deal with myself and with God, and was like, I will spend the 40th year of my life. Come January, I will spend that entire year pursuing film again, because it was the thing that it was like the dream that never would die. And it didn't matter how miserable I was. It didn't matter what kind of job I was working. It didn't matter what else I had going on. I knew I had to be in film. I knew I had to be in projects, and I just knew that I had to do it. And so I was like, okay, I will give you 12 months, January to December, after my 40th birthday, which is in November. So I turned 40, went through the holidays, went to Christmas, and then come January, I said, okay, I'm going to set my intention for this year. I'm going to pursue it as hard as I would pursue any other career. I'll go to all of the things. I will network as much as possible. I will get another agent. I will take auditions. I will do all the things. So January rolls around, and within 2 weeks, I had already signed with a new agency and booked the lead in Country Rain. And so I was like, well, okay, maybe I'm doing the right thing. But it didn't stop there, right? So then I booked the lead in another project about recovery. And then I booked one of the lead roles in the After series. And then I booked the lead role as a vigilante in the Annihilator series. And I'm up for potentially getting a lead role in Purple Heart, which is obviously about veterans and like the struggles that families go through when, you know, veterans come back from war, damaged as they do, right? And so I was like,
you need,
yeah. So Country Rain was a Christian project that we filmed, and we did have Dean Cain on the set with us. He is in the film, which was a big draw for a lot of the older ladies. And working with him was very interesting, and I met a lot of really great people on the set. Film Friends for Life is kind of the tag. And so I do have some friends from that film that will be my friends forever. And then I transitioned from that. We premiered that June 1st, and it is streaming. You can find that one on YouTube, and I am not ashamed for you to go watch it. And then
I did The Path to the Way, which is actually about recovery, and it's the story of Mark McHenry, who is just, I didn't know who he was before I met him. I went to a Tennessee Film Communities mixer up in Nashville at Nashville Film Institute, and he was there, and he was like, I'm making a project. It's about recovery, and I was very reluctant at first. I was like, you know what kind of, who's going to be shooting it? Because I learned from my first film in 2007, the cameraman makes a huge difference. Mm-hmm. So I was like, what kind of equipment are you going to be using? You know, what's the deal here? And I almost said no, but I'm actually glad that I did. It's a story about recovery from addiction, and really, in talking with the guy that actually runs the program, you realize, like, addiction really is not just about drugs and alcohol. Addiction is about all of our habits that we give our time to. It can be addiction to social media. It can be addiction to anything, right? Anything that takes up the majority of our time, that steals the time that we should be spending doing, you know, the things that God would have us do. And so we're all in recovery. You are a recovering Democrat. Yeah. And a recovering people pleaser.
Yeah, since February 2020.
So you're a recovering people pleaser.
I'm
a recovering, like, enabler. Like, you know.
Yeah.
So we're all in recovery, and we all need recovery in one way or the other. And so I was really happy that it's not premiered yet, so I don't have a premiere date. And then what I have upcoming is the After series, which is with Andrew Jacob Brown, which we're supposed to start filming in December. I'm not sure if that is a set start date. It might get pushed a little bit just for, you know, a lot of, it takes a lot to get a project off the ground. And that's a TV series that hopefully goes for many, many seasons. I'm really excited about that because it takes place after the rapture. Yeah. And so it kind of follows these characters and what they go through after the rapture and the people that are left here. And for those of you that I guess don't really know much about the rapture, I would encourage you to probably, you know, go read that for yourselves in the Bible. But it follows, my character is not someone that you're going to love immediately. She's not, I mean, it's hard for me to like my character. From what I've read in the first season,
I'm just going to put it out there. Like, I remember helping you read for it, and I kind of got Skank vibes. Are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I've just put it out there. I think I kind of got, like.
Well, so my character's name is Lucy, and so the scene that you're referring to takes place in a bar.
Yes.
Where I'm being like super overtly flirty with another cast member, which
it's very sultry. Like,
my character has history with.
Yeah, very sultry, skanky. You know, you worked it though. You did well.
I mean, and it's a true testament to acting because I've not had to flirt in a very long time. But no, so she's someone who definitely is going to have to take a hard path to redemption in this series. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know how that plays out yet, but so far from what I've read, she's going to be hard to like in the beginning, but I do hope that I think we can all maybe relate. We've not all been our best selves, and so I'm really interested to see how that plays out for her. And then next spring we start filming the Annihilator series, which is actually coincidentally another faith-based series. There's a faith element to it, but I actually play a vigilante in that, which is probably honestly kind of a dream role for me because my dream role to play is Jennifer Garner in Peppermint. Have you ever seen it?
No. Peppermint? No. What are you talking
about? Go watch it. It's great. Yes, Peppermint. So she's like a mom whose family gets murdered by gangs like this because they approached her husband. He was a CPA or something. They're like, we want you to cook our books. And he was like, no. So they killed him, but her daughter got caught in the crossfire. Oh. And she disappears and comes back after she spent some time abroad training how to be awesome. And comes back and like kills every single one of them brutally. Like, it's an amazing story. It's like my dream character to play. So this vigilante character is going to be fun for me. I get to do fight training, so that's fun. You know, I get to go train
and expand on some of my already existing fight skills. It's
Very
gonna be fun.
I'm
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
excited. I'm excited for you. I mean, and it's, for me, as you know, we've known each other for so long.
Yeah.
It's just this past year for you has been really amazing, and it's been such a huge blessing for me to be able to kind of hang with you, you know, on this journey and just kind of watch.
Well, when a lot of people, and you're my scene partner in all my auditions. I literally probably could not have gotten them without you, but I couldn't have done it without you. But truly, this is what I say when I say you have to be aware and recognize when there's something supernatural at work. This is not because I am the best actor to ever come out of Georgia. It's not that. I'm okay. I do pretty good. Apparently, I'm not terrible at it. But there's something supernatural working. I knew that there was something for me in this space. I made myself ready to walk through those doors, and then when the time came, I stepped out into that. It was scary. I mean, I almost did not even go to the audition for Country Rain at all. I thought that it was some hacked message that someone sent me on Facebook. It was a casting notification, and I thought she'd been hacked, and it was a link, and I was like, I'm not clicking a link to somebody on Facebook that I've hardly talked to. And so I almost didn't go. And then I went, and then the same thing for the after series. I actually came very close to not getting that part at all, but God just intervened because I knew when they were talking about the after series that I had a part to play there. I didn't know what the part would be. But I auditioned for the Lucy role, and they actually initially gave it to another actress. But some things happened, and I had the opportunity to do a second round of auditions, and I was able to secure the role at that point. So for me, at the rate that things are happening, I'm fully aware it's a God thing, right? It's right. Not because I'm amazing. It's because He is amazing. And I just try my best to follow the steps that He orders for me. And likewise for you, when we first kind of started talking again, you were in a dead-end job.
Oh, yeah.
With a company that literally made you want to shoot yourself every day because like you were miserably busy and stressed, and you had no real prospects. The company itself is most likely going to go bankrupt and be out of business at some point in the next 5 years, and you have leveraged your skills, which are many, but you happen to be, like, if I were going to have a corporate job, I would want to be you, because like you're like the dream employee, because you care so much and you're actually interested in Excel spreadsheets.
I do. I know. No. I'm so sorry.
She, like, a waterfall chart and a diagram and a VLOOKUP, and I'm like, shut up. When can we film the next podcast? I don't care about your waterfall chart. When can we film something and make something creative? And you're like, but I got to talk to this provider today, and I got to do, and I have no idea what you're talking about half the time, but you can't.
I know. People closest to me, the person I'm seeing currently, he gets aggravated when I talk in acronyms, which I do. And I can't help it because I've been in this industry for, 10 years. But back in July, I started working for a startup, and I'm blessed because the person who is my boss, I worked with him at the previous company we were both with, and I've known him for the past 8 years, and they're willing to, it's such an amazing experience because it's a startup.
Yeah.
We're all learning. We all work together. If we have different ideas, we toss those ideas around. If I have questions, it's a free space to ask questions. It's just such it's not quite corporate, we're trying to grow into, a bigger company, but, it's just such the biggest thing for me is to be able to help take something from the start and help it grow.
You get to make it what it should have been at the other place, right? You get to, like when you were, I remember when you were at your previous employer, you'd be like, process improvement didn't exist. And so
no.
Rather than trying to take a broken system and just fit yourself in to make the system what you want it to be, but like to the point, like you're even talking about like right now, it's like you care so much about it. So if I were going to be a corporate brat, like I would want to have this same mentality about it that you do. And I swear if I ever get to the point where I need someone to like manage my life, it would be you, because you're so organized. And so I've seen you go from when we got back in touch. It's funny how we got back in touch, story for another time, but when we got back in touch, I've seen you go from a miserable person about to go through a divorce with a company that made you miserable on a regular basis. And so all of these what ifs up in the air and uncertainty to someone who is standing on sure footing today.
I am.
And actually happy and living a life that you don't feel like you need to run away from, which is what we should all want, right? Like there were days also, like I wake up and just want to live anybody else's life but mine, right? You strive to live a life that you don't want to run away from. And you've gone from just having every bit of life and light drained out of you to a life where you actually feel like you're seen, like you matter, like you're validated, like you enjoy your work, which is something that a lot of people don't have. You know,
I do. I get to enjoy my work, and you know, and it's what's so hard for me to wrap my head around is, you know, now again, you know, here I am at 40 years old, and I'm finally getting to live a beautiful, calm, peaceful. I'm not anxious. I'm not stressed. I'm not, because my cortisol levels were high, you know, for years and years and years. And it was such a state of duress, and you're in constant brain fog, and you don't know which end's up, and you're just miserable, and you wake up and go, crap, I have to do this again today. And it's not like that for me anymore. I wake up, go to the gym, have my coffee, drink my protein. I work for an amazing company. I have an amazing group of people, you know, in my life, and, you know, love life's good. Kids are good, you know, so it's, my mom calls it walking in the sunshine now. And then that's what it's been. So, but that, you know, really is all thanks be to God, because it was not my own strength. Like, he picked me up, threw me over his shoulder, and carried me.
So if you had some parting words for people who are maybe where you were 4 years ago. It's been 4 years, right?
Yeah, 4 years. 4
years ago. I can't believe that. I feel like we just got back in touch yesterday. If you had some words for people who are where you were 4 years ago, what would that be?
Okay, so a few things. One, remember that healing is not linear.
Yeah.
Okay, and you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days. That's normal. Prioritize self-care. And it was a joke from our last podcast, but still true. Make sure you hydrate. And
hydrate.
And a big thing, huge, really lean into your faith.
Yeah.
Really lean into God, and just know that it's not going to be bad forever. Nothing is bad forever. Nothing in this world is bad forever. And you are going to get through that. And then once you get to that other side, you can look back and you're going to have so much clarity. Like, oh, this is the situation I was in. Oh, this is how bad it really was. And from those tough times, you can take that and it builds character, it builds strength. So when these other tough times come, you're like, you know what? If I handled that, I got this. And that's why, as a Christian, God promises us, right, that we're going to be enduring tough times. It's not going to be easy street for us, but we can take those tough times and we can use it as a testimony, and other people that are around us, they can listen to our stories and go, okay, we can help them along their path too. And I've found that a few times. I've gotten the opportunity to help, some women through their divorce stories, because, the whole betrayal wound, that's a very hard, deep wound to go through, but God can use your life and your struggles as a testimony, and especially for others, and a testimony, of course, to, hey, I'm God and I'm here to help you through your problems. And like I said, it was not my own strength. He really did throw me over his shoulder. He carried me through it. But looking back, that was God saving me and the kids from something far worse.
Yeah. I think if I had advice for people, I'll talk specifically about the industry, because
yes.
If I had advice for someone who either wanted to be or felt like they were supposed to be in the industry, that's film, that's music, that's anything, I would say, number one, you have to make sure that when the season comes, you are ready. You stay ready in and out of season. I think the hardest thing for me, because I pushed on this door and pushed on this door and pushed on this door, sometimes for years at a time, and it never opened. You have to understand the validity of seasons. This is only happening for me because it is supposed to be happening for me, because it is my season. And just like anything, seasons come and go. But I would say you're going to hear no a lot. How many, do you even know how many times I've asked you to read for me and never heard anything back from an audition? I can't count them. Probably 3 years worth of auditions.
Yeah.
And I never heard a thing back. It's really difficult, but I would say that if you can keep yourself, first of all, centered in your faith, to your point, centered in your faith, because it takes a great amount of integrity to be a part of the industry. It takes, you're desperate to be a part of something, you're desperate to be a part of a project, and then they come knock on your door and they have a pretty decent check, but all you have to do is compromise your values just a little here or a little there. It's really difficult to say no to those big checks, but you have to be faithful in whatever the values, whatever it is that's important to you. You have to be faithful to those boundaries that you set. And in doing so, I think that what is meant for you will not miss you. You will be put in front of the right people at the right time if you stay faithful, which is really difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to be pretty all the time, try modeling, because acting is definitely not the place. If you want to tell a real story and be a real value to a story, and to illustrating whatever your character's struggle or situation is, then it's definitely not always going to be flattering. It's not always going to be pretty. It's not going to be your best angle. You're not, you certainly can't do it for the praise of other people. It's a lot of times to be on a camera, I think, in front of the world, because you don't know where it's going to go and how far it will reach, to be on that stage in that sense is a very vulnerable feeling. I remember at the premiere of Country Rain, sitting in that room thinking, because it's a lot of those, like a lot of the scenes, I'm like, God, that's a terrible angle of me. God, I hate that.
But you've always been very critical of yourself. But let me tell you, that night you looked drop dead gorgeous.
That's because you did my makeup. But
I did. That's true. That's a true story. I did.
But you did. But I remember like sitting in that room cringing because it's very vulnerable. It's almost like standing up there naked, right? In a way, you let people into like the most inner parts of yourself in a lot of ways on a mass scale. Obviously, salvation, I think, is the first and foremost. The first thing that we should talk about in that is salvation. If you don't have it,
right?
Something you should definitely pray about and seek the Holy Spirit about, and accepting, the Lord as your Savior, and then learning how to anchor yourself in your faith beyond that. And I think that's true for life too, not just being in the industry, but any part of life, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because life
is reading His Word, like, I keep my Bible here and it looks absolutely insane, but this is, I write and I highlight and I take notes while the pastor's talking, or I'll take notes while, I'm at home studying on my own. But it's important to be in prayer, and it's important to, read your Bible and read your scripture. But
it's also important to make sure who you have around you.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And I think the one thing that I've really been realizing for a while now is I wish I was more, I guess overt is a good word, as far as me telling somebody like, hey, I'd really like to pray with you right now. Because again, I'm very, I'm private. So I pray for that person, but there are plenty of times, and even now, where I wish that there were some people in my life that I could say, you know what, can I pray with you, and you not think I'm crazy, but just let me pray with you. And, because there are some people, struggling, with certain things. And, I know God can do anything. But I wish I was definitely more like overt in my.
You better watch out. You're going to end up being just like me one day. I'm going to rub off on you.
But maybe we could, help each other out. Like, I'll help you with being more.
I want to be calm so bad. I don't think it's ever going to happen for me. But
well, I love you just the way you are.
Thank you. So with that, you have any closing thoughts?
No, I'm excited to be able to do the podcast again. I'm excited about some debates, and there is one debate I'm letting everyone know right now that I'm not happy about, and I am totally going to be eating crow. And
I feel like it's going to be more than one debate, but we'll start with that one. Yeah.
Listen, you're getting cocky now, ma'am. You need to pipe down. Just pipe down.
Shannon is our next podcast will be revisiting the homeschool debate, in which she took the stance that it was perfectly acceptable and fine. The public schools are A-okay.
Yep.
We're going to talk about that next time. We're going to see where she stands today. I won't do, and I told you so. But let's all be kind and remember Shannon is a recovering Democrat.
Listen here.
So we all need recovery in our own ways. She's just a recovering Democrat. It's going to be good.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I will fully admit I'm going to be eating crow. And when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I can admit when I'm wrong. I'm not too stubborn to, admit that. But
that makes one of us. But
It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Thank you for being patient, listening to our stories. We wanted to give you a little bit of insight and context into our relationship, but also just who we are in general, and look for the homeschool debate up and coming in the next couple of weeks beyond today. And thank you for joining us, and good night and God bless.
God bless.
I can't wait. Can't wait.
Listen, just pipe down over there. And listen, if anybody's got any questions that they want to ask us about, who we are, or, if they're not too personal, like, keep it nice, everybody. But if you've got additional questions, just, put them in the comments below.
Yes, definitely. We will try to get to your comments.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Good night, everybody.